Some people think customer service is about solving problems. Wrong. It's about surviving the moment when a grown adult looks you dead in the eye and asks if the moon has Wi-Fi or whether soup can be served less wet. These are not isolated incidents. They're recurring proof that evolution occasionally hits the pause button just to mess with us. And just when you think you've heard the dumbest question humanity could possibly produce, someone else calls demanding a refund because their coffee was too coffee-flavored. That's the level of reality we're dealing with. And believe me, you haven't even heard the worst of it yet. 1. A guest at a Florida beachfront resort once filed a formal complaint because the ocean waves were too loud. Yes, imagine booking a seaside vacation and then demanding the sea respect quiet hours. The guest insisted management should turn the ocean down after 10 p.m., as if Poseidon is just hanging out with a volume knob. The hotel politely offered a room facing the parking lot, but the guest still demanded compensation for sound pollution. Forget that nature existed before hotels, before Florida, before this guy's ego. No, clearly the Atlantic Ocean was designed specifically to ruin his REM cycle. Honestly, I hope the ocean personally sent him a Yelp review in Morse code. 2. In New York City, a businessman complained that his hotel bed was too comfortable. Let that sink in. He was angry because he slept too well. He overslept, missed a $1 million meeting, and tried to hold the hotel responsible. That's like suing Starbucks for making coffee too caffeinated. This man essentially turned luxury into a lawsuit, proving that the real danger of five-star hotels isn't bed bugs, it's bed bliss. I picture him standing at the front desk, veins popping out, yelling, "Your mattress destroyed my productivity." Sir, if you're incapable of setting an alarm, you don't need a lawyer. You need a toddler with a frying pan to smack you awake. 3. A Las Vegas couple once demanded a new waiter because theirs was too handsome. Yes, this woman claimed her anniversary dinner was ruined because her husband felt insecure next to a server with cheekbones sharp enough to slice the breadsticks. They literally wanted an uglier staff member brought in, like the restaurant keeps a backroom full of trolls for just such emergencies. Imagine HR writing that memo. If you're attractive, please stay home. We only need average faces tonight. The audacity here is breathtaking. Imagine going out to celebrate your marriage and realizing the biggest threat isn't infidelity. It's a symmetrical jawline with good lighting. 4. On an airplane, a passenger once complained that gravity felt too strong. No, not turbulence, gravity. They thought airlines should invest in premium gravity like the movies, where you just float around sipping martinis. They even accused the airline of using budget gravity. Imagine being the flight attendant, forced to explain physics to someone who thinks Isaac Newton was just bad at customer service. Apparently, because astronauts float in space, this passenger assumed United Airlines had a zero-gravity option they just weren't paying for. Honestly, I wish they had floated off the plane, preferably mid-flight, without a parachute. 5. A pet-friendly Colorado hotel got a 1-star review because a guest's dog didn't like the view. Not the human, the dog. The owner insisted Sir Reginald, a Bichon Frise, was bored by mountains and would have preferred more squirrels. Let's just pause and appreciate the fact someone expected a hotel to provide scenery tailored to a dog's aesthetic preferences. The complaint ended with, "This hotel caused my dog emotional distress. Somewhere in Colorado, there's a therapist specializing in canine landscape trauma. Honestly, if Sir Reginald has Yelp privileges, I'm done with the internet." 6. A passenger once filed a complaint because their airplane window wouldn't open. At 35,000 feet. They literally spent the flight trying to roll it down like a car window before demanding to know why airlines install fake windows. When told that opening it would instantly depressurize the cabin and scatter passengers like popcorn, they argued, "Well, car windows open at high speeds." Yes, Karen, 70 miles an hour on I-95 is exactly the same as Mach 0.8 in the stratosphere. Honestly, if airlines did allow windows to open, this person would have been sucked out instantly, and we could all agree the complaint resolved itself. 7. A man at an Arizona hotel ordered ice cream from room service, then called to complain it was too cold. I repeat, he was angry because his ice cream was cold. Staff patiently explained that was, in fact, the entire concept of ice cream. But he wasn't satisfied. He insisted the hotel should have warned him. Warned him about what? That dairy products stored below freezing might chill his tongue? What's next? A warning label on soup saying, "may contain liquid"? This man didn't need dessert. He needed adult supervision and possibly a helmet. 8. In Savannah, a tourist stayed at a famously haunted hotel and then complained their ghost was boring. They expected chains rattling, dramatic moans, maybe a surprise exorcism. Instead, the ghost just hovered in the corner quietly, like an awkward roommate who doesn't pay rent. The guest demanded a discount for subpar paranormal activity. Imagine being a centuries-old spirit and getting a Yelp review for bad customer engagement. I'd love to see the manager's face when they read, "Great location, lovely decor, but the ghost didn't even boo once. 2 stars. 9. A passenger once demanded compensation because turbulence made their flight bumpy. They compared it to a car hitting potholes and accused the pilot of bad driving. When told turbulence is caused by atmospheric conditions, they argued good pilots should just avoid the air bumps. Yes, because the sky is basically a poorly maintained highway, and Delta just forgot to send road crews. This person genuinely believed turbulence was optional, like a seat upgrade. Imagine writing that complaint and thinking you've just exposed the airline's greatest conspiracy. 10. A minimalist California hotel had a guest complain that the bed sheets were too white. The color was described as aggressively bright and hurtful to the eyes. They demanded management switch to a more soothing shade, like beige. Yes, someone stood in a hotel room and thought, "These sheets are attacking me." This is why aliens avoid us. They cross light years, peer into our civilization, and see someone having a nervous breakdown over linen brightness. Honestly, if beige sheets are your deal breaker, maybe civilization has evolved too far. 11. A woman in Boston once complained that the hotel staff's accents were too thick. Imagine booking a trip across the country, then being shocked people sound local. That's like visiting Paris and being outraged the waiter speaks French. The guest even suggested staff take accent training to sound more professional. Yeah, because nothing screams hospitality like stripping away regional identity to appease one tourist's delicate ears. If accents are a problem for you, I suggest a vacation to Ohio. Not because it's accent-free, just because you deserve Ohio. 12. A passenger complained to an airline about losing 3 hours of life flying from New York to Los Angeles. They demanded compensation for the stolen time. Apparently, time zones are now a customer service issue. When staff explained the Earth rotates, the passenger argued that other airlines don't take time away. Yes, because Delta clearly has a faster Earth. What's next? Someone suing NASA for making years longer with leap days. Honestly, I'd have offered them their 3 hours back on a one-way flight straight into the Bermuda Triangle. 13. At a Miami resort, a guest demanded the pool be drained and refilled with bottled Fiji water. Chlorine, they said, was bad for their skin, and for the price they were paying, they expected imported artesian luxury. Just imagine thousands of bottles cracked open by exhausted staff, pouring endlessly into an Olympic-sized pool. It's the kind of request that makes you hope the manager just handed them a Dasani and shoved them in. You don't need a pool. You need psychiatric care. 14. A Chicago hotel received a written complaint about the artwork in the hallways. A businessman claimed the abstract paintings were blocking his creative process and demanded replacements that were more commercially inspiring. So, apparently, Picasso was standing in the way of his next pyramid scheme. The manager said he had to physically bite his tongue not to laugh. Personally, I would have swapped every painting for motivational cat posters and sent him a bill for inspiration consulting. 15. A passenger once complained that the airplane engines were too engine-like. They wanted quieter engines that sounded more like cars. They explained the noise interfered with their ability to pretend they weren't flying. That's right. The problem wasn't flying itself, it was that the plane sounded too much like a plane. The airline suggested earplugs. The passenger demanded mufflers. Yes, mufflers. On a jet engine. The same technology you use to make your Honda quieter at 45 miles an hour. Honestly, I hope they got their wish, right as the muffler detached and shot through the fuselage. 16. At a wellness resort, a guest stormed the front desk to complain about the smell of bacon. The aroma from the dining hall had wafted up to their room, and they claimed it was contaminating their aura. Their solution? Demand that bacon either be eliminated from the menu or cooked silently without smell. Yes, apparently physics should bend for vegan vibes. Honestly, if bacon ruins your aura, maybe your aura wasn't that strong to begin with. 17. And finally, a man once stayed at a newly renovated hotel and filed a safety complaint because the marble floors in the lobby were too shiny. He claimed the reflection could disorient guests and described it as if the hotel had installed funhouse mirrors underfoot to trap tourists. Staff explained it was just polished stone. He insisted they install anti-glare flooring. Imagine being afraid of your own reflection and thinking it's a corporate plot. At that point, just stay home, sir. Preferably in a padded room with matte paint. 18. A guest at a California resort once complained that the Wi-Fi was too fast. Too fast. He said it let him procrastinate too efficiently, and he lost an entire day on YouTube instead of working. So, to recap, the hotel provided flawless internet, and this man's main takeaway was that self-control is apparently a subscription service. He demanded a refund because better Wi-Fi ruined his productivity. That's like suing Tesla, because autopilot gave you more free time to text your ex. Imagine explaining this to tech support. Yes, hi. The problem is, I'm lazy. Please downgrade me to dial-up. 19. At a historic New Orleans hotel, a guest in a dimly lit romantic suite complained the bedside lamp was casting aggressive and judgmental shadows. Aggressive shadows. He asked if maintenance could come up and adjust the physics of light so the shadows stopped looking mean. Forget Thomas Edison rolling in his grave. This guy thinks hotel staff are Hogwarts-trained wizards. I'd pay good money to see the maintenance guy walk in, wave a plunger like a wand, and say, "There you go, sir. Shadows now approved for dinner conversation." 20. Someone once filed a complaint that their in-flight meal was served at airplane temperature. Not cold, not hot, airplane temperature. As though the airline had invented a sinister new Celsius. They claimed airline ovens should heat food to normal ground-level temperatures. The staff calmly explained that it was heated the same as restaurants. The passenger refused to believe it, insisting airlines purposely use budget ovens. Because yes, airlines are secretly conspiring to undercook lasagna just to spite you. Honestly, if airplane temperature becomes an actual thing on thermometers, I'm moving to Mars. 21. A guest in San Diego demanded the hotel provide 24-hour cartoons for her parrot. She claimed her bird, Picasso, was intellectually stimulated by TV and became listless without constant access to SpongeBob. That's right. The emotional well-being of a parrot became a formal customer service crisis. Imagine being the front desk clerk, trying not to laugh while writing, "Parrot board, please add Nickelodeon to the bird package." Somewhere out there, a parrot now knows more about Saturday morning TV culture than most children. 22. At a Las Vegas resort, a guest demanded staff clear a path for him every time he walked to the casino because he didn't want to breathe the same air as common people. Not a celebrity, just a guy. Imagine the staff being forced to part tourists like Moses splitting the Red Sea, all for this human air purifier. The fact that he wasn't laughed out of the building proves hospitality workers deserve hazard pay in patience. Honestly, this man should have been escorted straight to the nearest medieval dungeon, because that's the only place where his request makes sense. 23. A tourist at a Boston hotel complained the local staff's accents were too thick and unprofessional. Yes, because clearly the solution is to send every employee to accent elimination school so they sound like Siri. This person booked a trip across the country, then became horrified that people actually sound different in other regions. It's like going to Scotland and complaining people use bagpipes instead of iPhones. Honestly, if your ears are that fragile, vacationing anywhere outside your living room is a bad call. 24. A man once called the front desk at 3 a.m., demanding someone come upstairs to make his wife stop snoring. He insisted that since he was paying for a quiet night's sleep, the hotel was contractually responsible for controlling his wife's nasal passages. Imagine being the poor night clerk asked to physically go into a stranger's bedroom and silence their spouse. That's not customer service. That's a kidnapping attempt. Honestly, if this is how marriage works, hotels should start offering snore neutralization packages that come with duct tape and earplugs. 25. On a flight from New York, a passenger complained that the plane flew too high. He said he got altitude sickness at 35,000 feet and wanted the airline to fly lower next time. Yes, he thought commercial flights should just cruise at bird level so he could watch cars drive below. When told planes fly high for safety, he argued that other airlines fly lower. Which ones exactly? Spirit Airlines but make it go-kart edition? Honestly, I'd love to see his face if they really did drop altitude, right into the nearest mountain. 26. A woman at a Miami resort demanded the pool be drained because the water was too wet. Her argument, "You don't expect us to swim in this, do you?" The manager explained that, yes, pools generally contain water. She stormed off, claiming she was misled by the photos online. What exactly did she expect? Sand? Champagne? An inflatable pit of almond milk? If you're booking a luxury pool experience and can't handle H2O, maybe just stay home and fill your bathtub with confetti. 27. At a health-focused resort in California, a vegan guest claimed the smell of bacon wafting up from the dining hall was assaulting her aura. Assaulting her aura. She wanted compensation for spiritual contamination. Staff suggested closing her balcony door, which apparently was unacceptable because the bacon energy already entered the room. Bacon energy. Somewhere, Gwyneth Paltrow just heard that and launched a $200 candle called Aura Protective Bacon Flame. Honestly, if your aura is defeated by breakfast, maybe it wasn't a very powerful aura to begin with. 28. A businessman in Chicago once complained that marble floors in the lobby were too shiny and posed a public hazard. He said the reflections disoriented him, as if the hotel installed a mirror maze to trap corporate travelers. He suggested anti-glare flooring, like sunglasses for stone. Imagine the architect hearing that. "Yes, sir, we'll just redesign physics for you." Honestly, if polished floors make you dizzy, airports must feel like a full-on acid trip. 29. A passenger once filed a complaint because their plane looked too much like an airplane. They expected something sleeker, more futuristic, like a spaceship from Star Wars. The fact that Boeing prioritizes safety over looking like a Marvel prop was apparently false advertising. This person actually asked when airlines would upgrade to cooler-looking planes. I imagine the customer service agent just silently picturing him boarding a TIE fighter and getting vaporized. 30. At a wellness spa, a guest filed a complaint that the free meditation class didn't cure her depression. Yes, she thought one guided breathing session was going to fix everything her therapist couldn't. When staff explained meditation was a tool, not a miracle, she demanded a refund and wrote a review calling it false advertising. Imagine being the poor instructor who has to explain that sitting cross-legged and humming won't replace Prozac. Honestly, if anything, the spa should have billed her extra for wasting oxygen. 31. A man once stayed in a historic Savannah hotel and complained the ghost haunting his room wasn't scary enough. He said the ghost just floated quietly and didn't even rattle chains. He demanded a discount for the boring haunting imagined being a centuries-old spirit trapped for eternity, only to get a 1-star review for lack of dramatic flair. If Yelp existed in the afterlife, that ghost would be writing, "Customer was entitled, refused to clap for my performance." 32. At a London hotel, a guest complained that the complimentary breakfast wasn't Michelin-starred. It was free toast and coffee, and he wanted Gordon Ramsay-level soufflés. This man took continental breakfast and heard Culinary Olympics. He argued that, for the price of the room, breakfast should come with caviar. Meanwhile, the staff are just trying to make sure the orange juice machine doesn't jam. Honestly, if you expect foie gras with your free bagel, you don't need a hotel, you need medication. 33. On a flight, a passenger demanded a refund because the pilot took the wrong route. She argued the plane should have flown over her hometown so she could wave down at it. When told flight paths are determined by air traffic control, she insisted the pilot got lost. Yes, because pilots just wing it with Google Maps like an Uber driver. Honestly, I hope she got her wish, on a scenic detour straight to the Bermuda Triangle. 34. A man in Arizona complained that his oversized bathtub was too big, and he risked drowning trying to reach the soap. He suggested the hotel install ropes, or tiny life rafts, for safety. This is a man who turned a luxury suite into a death trap with his own imagination. Forget drowning. This guy's real problem is that evolution let him survive long enough to write Yelp reviews. Honestly, if soap across the tub is your final boss, maybe showers are more your speed. 35. At a Tokyo hotel, a guest complained that the koi fish in the lobby pond weren't colorful enough. He said their dullness ruined the feng shui of his trip and asked management to dye the fish brighter. Yes, this man wanted live animals spray-painted like Easter eggs. Staff refused, so he suggested replacing them with robotic fish that could be programmed to glow more Instagrammable. Imagine walking into a centuries-old cultural tradition and treating it like a TikTok filter. Honestly, the only thing that needed dyeing was his credit card, permanently red for stupidity. 36. On a long-haul flight, a passenger demanded to speak to the captain's manager. She didn't like the turbulence and insisted she'd escalate the complaint to corporate. Yes, she thought airlines are structured like Starbucks, with some guy named Brad in corporate who can discipline a pilot for not driving smoothly. I would pay money to watch her try to leave a 1-star Yelp review for the sky. Honestly, if you think turbulence is a management issue, the only promotion you deserve is a parachute. 37. A luxury hotel in Monaco had a guest complain that the sunrise arrived too early. He insisted the hotel control the timing of the sun so he could sleep in without blackout curtains. The staff gently explained they don't, in fact, control celestial mechanics. He called it lazy service. Imagine working hospitality and being expected to reschedule the solar system because Chad from Connecticut doesn't own an eye mask. Honestly, if hotels could control the sun, they'd already be charging extra for it. 38. A woman once complained her airplane didn't have a smoking section. Not shocking, except this was in 2022. She argued that cars still have cigarette lighters, so planes should too. When staff reminded her smoking has been banned for decades, she said, "Then why do bathrooms still have ashtrays?" A question so dumb it briefly turned logic inside out. She demanded to be let off mid-flight. Honestly, I'd have been happy to open the door. 39. In London, a guest complained that the hotel's doorman didn't tip him. He argued that because he gave the doorman the opportunity to work, the gratitude should flow the other way. He left a review calling the staff ungrateful. Imagine living in a world where handing someone your luggage makes you the hero of the story. Honestly, if entitlement were currency, this man would have been richer than Elon Musk. 40. A man once complained that his hotel shampoo bottles were too small to wash his car. He called the front desk to demand larger bottles. When told they're designed for humans, not Toyotas, he got furious and accused the hotel of false advertising. That's right. This guy thought the complimentary toiletries should scale up to his personal automotive hygiene. Honestly, I hope he did try it. Picture him out in the parking lot, scrubbing a Ford F-150 with 3 ounces of lavender conditioner. 41. On a flight to Sydney, a passenger demanded to know why the plane didn't take a shortcut over the flat part of the Earth. He was a full-blown flat earther, convinced the airline was scamming passengers by flying the long way around the globe. He argued they could shave hours off if they'd just go in a straight line. The flight attendant had to explain in front of everyone that the planet is round. Honestly, the fact this man made it to the gate without forgetting to breathe is the real miracle of aviation. 42. At a Dubai resort, a guest complained the sand on the beach was too sandy. He said it got on his shoes, his clothes, and even his towel. Shocking, I know. He wanted the hotel to import smoother sand that doesn't stick. You mean pebbles? Gravel? Styrofoam? Honestly, the only thing rougher than that sand was the IQ level required to complain about it. 43. A woman once demanded a refund from an airline because she missed her connecting flight after she went shopping instead of boarding. She admitted she heard the announcement but didn't want to leave duty-free. Then she called it the airline's fault for not coming to physically collect her. Honestly, the only place she should have been escorted was straight into a TSA-sponsored daycare for adults who can't follow instructions. 44. In Paris, a guest complained that the Eiffel Tower was too pointy and said it ruined her photos. She demanded the city round off the top to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Imagine standing in front of one of the most iconic landmarks on Earth and thinking, needs more soft edges. Honestly, Paris should have mailed her directions to the nearest IKEA lamp if she wanted round and pleasing. 45. A man once tried to sue a hotel because the mirror in his room made him look fat. He claimed it distorted his body and caused emotional distress. The hotel pointed out it was a normal mirror. His lawyer dropped the case after realizing the real distortion was in the man's brain. Honestly, this is the closest we've ever come to someone trying to subpoena reality itself. 46. On a flight, a passenger demanded the pilot avoid clouds. She said clouds made her nervous and insisted the pilot steer around them like potholes. When told this wasn't possible, she threatened to leave a bad review online. Imagine thinking the pilot's job is less navigating airspace and more Uber with better suspension. Honestly, I'd have given her a parachute and pointed at the clearest patch of sky. 47. In Las Vegas, a guest filed a complaint because the hotel slot machines didn't pay out. He claimed it was false advertising because someone has to win. He demanded reimbursement for all his losses because the casino owed him a fair chance. This man walked into the gambling capital of the world, expected guaranteed profit, and still thought he discovered a scam. Honestly, the only jackpot here was how perfectly he defined the word loser. 48. A woman once called room service to demand gluten-free water. She insisted regular water tasted too weedy. When staff explained water does not, in fact, contain gluten, she accused them of lying to protect Big Wheat. She refused to drink until they relabeled it. Honestly, if someone bottled gluten-free water and charged $12 a liter, she'd be first in line. 49. A passenger once demanded that the airline remove another passenger's baby from the flight because it didn't match her vibe. She said crying infants are unprofessional and wanted the child rebooked on a quieter flight. Imagine telling a mother her newborn is incompatible with your aesthetic. Honestly, the only unprofessional noise on that flight was her voice. 50. At a 5-star resort, a man once complained that the moon was the wrong shape. He expected a full moon, but it was only a crescent during his stay. He said the hotel should have scheduled better lunar visibility. That's right, he expected concierge to adjust the cosmos. Honestly, if hotels start controlling the moon, I hope they charge him double just for being that stupid. 51. And finally, the crown jewel of complaints, a man once sued an airline because they wouldn't let him bring his emotional support beehive. Yes, a live hive of bees. He argued the buzzing calmed him down. The airline argued reasonably that releasing thousands of airborne insects in a metal tube at 35,000 feet might upset other passengers. He called it discrimination against insects. Honestly, this isn't just the dumbest complaint, it's the perfect finale. Because if you think a cabin full of angry bees is therapeutic, then congratulations, you are exactly why this list exists. And there you have it, proof that human complaints are less about logic and more about turning oxygen into noise. Which one deserves the crown for dumbest of all time? Drop your votes, or your own horror stories, in the comments. If this parade of nonsense made you laugh, hit like, subscribe, and brace yourself, because trust me, it only gets dumber from here.